The Land of Roar, Chapter 45. We land Bad Dragon in a clearing close to Wind's cave, and Vlad thuds down behind us. Pickle is already there, stretched out in the sun. We half fall off Bad Dragon's back, then watch as the three dragons eye each other warily. After some huffing and puffing, and a little bit of teeth gnashing, they settle down in the long grass. Bad Dragon sitting apart from Vlad and Pickle. She stretches out her long neck and keeps her red eyes firmly fixed on the smaller dragons. "Shouldn't we make them fly off somewhere?" I say. "If Croaky comes after us, he might see them and find Wind's cave." Rose shakes her head. "We're fine. You saw Croaky's wings. He's not going anywhere. For now, I think." Rose goes to each dragon in turn. She rests her cheek against their snouts and whispers in their ears. For a moment she disappears in a cloud of smoke seeping from Bad Dragon's nostrils. She's saying thank you and goodbye. I don't risk getting so close. Instead I give them a respectful salute. Then we walk into the wood that leads to Wind's cave. We find Grandad propped up by the mouth of the cave, eating an apple and watching Wind practice his moves. "This is my very, very best one," says Win, as he jumps in the air and does a somersault with no hands. "Fabulous," says Grandad, making Win beam with pride. Then he looks up and sees us walking towards him. "There you are!" Grandad may be smiling, but he looks terrible. His face is bruised and his hair is singed. Black soot from the dungeon covers his cardigan, and even though he's only been gone a few days, he looks skinnier, fragile. Possibly for the first time, Grandad looks like an old man. "What I fancy right now," he says, pulling us to him, "is to go home and have a nice cup of tea, and maybe a bath." Win looks up in alarm. "You can't go, not yet. I can do tea. I could probably even sort out a bath, although I usually just jump in the waterfall." "Tea would be good," I say, looking hopefully at Grandad. He laughs and nods. "Fair enough, the bath can wait, but a cup of tea and maybe a bit of toast would be just the ticket." Win jumps to his feet, and soon we're sitting round Win's fire, eating bees on toast and drinking Win's milky tea. Afterwards, Grandad nods off, and we drape one of Win's sleeping bags over him. Rose keeps glancing at him, and I know she's thinking that we should get him home. But I can't leave Roar, not yet. The day starts to drift towards evening. Birds fly down to the forest, the red ones that go pow pow, and fluffy yellow ones that look more like chicks. Some settle in the trees, others hop around on the rock eating our crumbs. Some furries come out of the forest too. They fly right up to our faces. They peer in our eyes and ears. One drops down on Rose's lap and just lies there, staring up at her, saying, "Rose," every now and then. Then we start to talk about the magic road, and the crow's nest, and everything that happened today. Rose doesn't mention the flash of blue, and neither do I, but we talk about everything else, interrupting each other and going over the best bits again and again until there's nothing left to say. "So Croaky definitely didn't follow you?" says Win, his eyes shooting towards the forest. "He couldn't," says Rose. "His wings were burnt and he was half drowned. We left him on the Raven. The Lost Girls have the crow's nest now." "But without the magic road and the Raven, they're trapped in the castle." Win looks at me hopefully. "Maybe we could help them build a bridge or a boat." He wants us to stay. I understand. I want to stay too. "And when Croaky comes back, he's going to be mad about the whole Lost Girls in his castle thing. We could probably do with a bit of help." "Don't worry," I say, looking out over Roar. "We'll be back. Right, Rose?" She holds up her wrist where her bracelet of sea glass and shells catches the light from the fire. "Definitely. I've got to give this back to Mitch." Seeing the bracelet makes me think of something important. "Win, I need you to give me the relic of Arthur." His eyes widen and his hand clutches at his chest. "Why?" "Look, I trust you with it, but like you said, imagine if Croaky got hold of it. All he'd need to do is crawl through the tunnel, and then he'd be in our world, and our world and Croaky would be a seriously bad combination. What's the relic of Arthur? Says Rose. This. Wynne holds up the fidget spinner on its chain. It's how I got into your granddad's attic. He only got through to home when he was wearing something that belonged to us, I explain. You don't need to come to us, Rose says. We'll come back to you. When? Rose and I look at each other. Mum and Dad are picking us up in a couple of days. Then we're starting secondary school. We'll be back as soon as we can, I say. Reluctantly, Wynne takes off the fidget spinner and places the chain over my head. Ninja promise? I nod. Ninja promise. Then I say something I know he's not going to like. I'm sorry, Wynne, but we need all our other things back too. The welly boot, the putty. It might not just be the relic of Arthur that lets you through the tunnel. Wynne sighs deeply as he gets to his feet. Come on, he says, as he trudges into the forest. Rose can't quite believe what she sees in the cave. She runs her fingers over the hoof prints and gazes at each object in turn. I looked for this everywhere, she says, picking up a cuddly toy owl that's missing both eyes. I thought Mum chucked it out. We collect everything in the knitted hat and welly boot. Wynne insists on putting each object in himself. Goodbye, hula hoops, he says, dropping the packet in the boot. Goodbye, hair clip. Goodbye, t-shirt. He rests the t-shirt against his cheek for a moment before putting it on top of the other things. Well, that's it, he says, looking around the now empty cave. I shake my head and hold out my hand. Putty? With a sigh, Wynne pulls the putty out of his pocket. You don't need it, I say. I did a ninja promise. We'll be back. After one last stroke of the tin, he drops it into the welly.